when you change your name for different states so you can do more crime. Today, we're going over Carl Panzram.
We here at Angry Me Production want to thank our sponsor, Mobile Notary Mindy. She's certified with the National Notary Association. She's also bonded and E&O insured. She offers a wide range of services including wills, powers of attorney, medical documents, healthcare proxies, living wills, certification of trust, assignment of personal property, HIPAA waivers, advanced healthcare directives, and 99 verification. You can find her on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Mobile Notary Mindy. You can also visit her webpage at TexasMobileNotaryMindy.com. That's TX, MobileNotaryMindy.com. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen of all ages, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Angry Me Production. We appreciate you coming in and letting us be a part of your lives, week in and week out. We hope to do our best to present you with something that your eardrums delight in. Whether you're looking at us on YouTube or Rumble, or listening to us on Spotify, Google, or Anchor, or any of the other podcast services that we are currently on or trying to get on, we thank you. And if you don't mind, at the end of every episode, stop by, leave us a comment, leave us a like. If it asks for 5 stars, we'll take 5 stars, even if you don't like us. 5 stars are what it's all about. With that being said, we hope you enjoy our attempt to make our advocation our vocation. Ladies and gentlemen, let the games begin.
Welcome, Angry Faithful. Yes, today we're going over Carl Panzram, which is, hey, it's just well, let's get into it because it was just really, the entire thing was just really weird. The early 1900s and the late 1900s and early 2000s had some really colorful characters, I guess you would say. But let's go ahead and begin. Carl Panzram was born June 28th, 1891 on a farm near East Grand Forks, Minnesota. The sixth of 7 children born in East Persia. Immigrants John Panzram, Meredith Elizabeth Lizzie Panzram, and his 6 children were made to work on the family farm from the age until truancy laws, which made it illegal for parents not to send their children to school, which came into effect. Panzram parents were very angry about this, having their children sent to school during the day and forced them to work into the fields throughout the night instead. Panzram later reported he would get just 2 hours of sleep before he would have to get up and go to school. Punishments in the household also ranged from chained to being starved. And basically, this is how you make a psychopath, I guess. Panzram reflected on his childhood with the settlement that he was not liked by other children. By the age of 5, he claimed that he was a liar and a thief, and recalled becoming became meaner the older he got. Panzram's father abandoned him when he was 7 years old. Eventually, 4 of his 5 brothers were left as well. One of them drowned. His earlier criminal record, Panzram run-ins with the law started in 1899 at the age 8 when he was charged in juvenile court for being drunk and disorderly. Yes, that's right. In 1990, it was easy for kids of the age of 8 to be drunk. And in 1903, at the age of 11, he was arrested and jailed for drunk and incorrigible, a term used to attain use back then. Incorrigible. It's let's get the actual definition on this real quick, because I'm kind of curious of that now. Now, the incorrigible, a controllable, bad beyond correction or reform. That's what the judge thought of Panzram. Not long after the second arrest, Panzram stole cakes, apples, and a revolver from a neighbor's home. In October 1903, Panzram's mother sent him to Minnesota's state training school, proportionally a reform school. Panzram later wrote in his autobiography, however, that he was repeatedly beaten, tortured, and sexually assaulted by staff members. In a workshop for children dubbed the paint shop due to the living room painted with bruises and blood, Panzram hated the school so much that he decided to burn it down, which he did successfully and without detection on July 7th, 1905. In January 1906, Panzram was paroled from Red Wing Training School. You know what? I'm kind of curious about that. I guess it doesn't have anything to do with the Red Wing boot company. That's why I was curious about it. Apparently, it was just a training school where he had been detained after stealing money from his mother's pocketbook. By his early teens, Panzram exhibited alcoholism and had a lengthy criminal rap sheet, most for burglary and robbery offenses. At the age of 14, a couple of weeks after his parole, and 2 weeks after attempting to kill a Lutheran cleric with a revolver, Panzram ran away from home to live on the streets. He often traveled via train car, and later recalled having been sexually assaulted by a group of homeless men on one of these occasions. Now, his other crime sprees, starting from 1906, Panzram was arrested for burglary in Butte, Montana, and the sentence to 1 year imprisonment in Montana State Reform School in Miles City. He claimed that after a guard punished him, he assaulted and cruelly injured the man with a wooden board. As punishment, Panzram spent some time in solitary confinement. The following year, Panzram and a fellow inmate named James Benson escaped from Montana State Reform School and stole guns in Terry, Montana. In the coming weeks, Panzram and Benson repeatedly broke into stores, razed buildings, especially churches, to the ground with fire. In Fargo, North Dakota, the two men separated later in 1907. After getting drunk in a Helen, Montana saloon, Panzram enlisted in the United States Army, which is kind of strange for most people getting drunk and joining the Army, but there we go. And was assigned to the 6th Infantry in Fort William Henry Harrison, refusing to take orders from officers and being generally insubordinate. He was convicted of larceny for stealing $80 worth of supplies and served a prison system. Now, the amount of that in 2024 is $3,341.16, basically a month's pay. And nowadays, for the United States military, I think at E6. He was sentenced to United States disciplinary barracks at Fort Leavenworth between 1908 to 1910, with the United States Secretary of War William Howard Taft, which is actually the 27th president of the United States, officially approving Panzram's sentence. Panzram later claimed that while he had been a rotten egg before imprisonment at the military penitentiary, Any shred of goodness left in him was smashed out during his time at Leavenworth. After his release and dishonorably discharged, Panzram resumed his criminal activities as a thief, stealing items that range from bicycles to yachts. That's impressive, you stealing a yacht. He that was really impressive. If you can steal a yacht, you're pretty good thief, I guess. He was caught and imprisoned multiple times. He served prison sentences both under his own name and various aliases: California, Texas, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, uh, Connecticut, where his name was John O'Leary, Sing Sing Correctional Facility in New York, Clinton Correctional Facility in New York and Washington, D.C., and Leavenworth, Kansas again. While incarcerated, Panzram frequently attacked guards and refused to follow their orders, and the guards retained him, subjected him to beatings and other punishments. In his autobiography, Panzram wrote that he was raged personified and that he would often sexually abuse men who he had robbed. He was noted for his large stature and great physical strength due to his years of hard labor in Leavenworth and other prisons, which aided him in the overpowering of most men. He also engaged in vandalism and arson by his own admission. One of the few times he did not engage in criminal activities was when he was employed as a strikebreaker against the union employees. And strikebreakers is a person who works to dispute a strike. Strikebreakers were usually individuals who were not employed by the company before the trade union dispute, but hired after and during the strike to keep the organization running. Strikebreakers also refer to workers who cross picket lines. Now, strikebreakers are. Let's finish this up because I think strikebreakers cross the picket line. Allowing their use and give them power to unionize workers. Oh, okay. They was just basically they worked when the other employees didn't want to work and they were on strike, which called strikebreakers. I thought it was still something totally different. Like, if you're a strikebreaker, you're breaking up the strike and you're beating up people, but I guess that's not the case, or it might have been the case. But anyways, I digress. Panzram claimed in his autobiography that after escaping from a chain gang sentence at Rusk, Texas, he went to Stephanie Hawking's. I can get Juarez. Ciudad Juarez. Real quick.
Ciudad Juarez.
Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, in the winter of 1910 to try to enlist into the federales. He took a train to Del Rio, Texas, and got off at a small town 50 to 100 miles east of El Paso. He later claimed that he was abducted, assaulted, and strangled a man about a mile from the town and stole $35 from that victim, and roughly about $1,000 from today's amount of money. In September 1911, Panzram, going by the alias Jefferson Davis. Why did I hear that name before? I think Jefferson Davis was something between, I think, someone that signed the Declaration of Independence. Yeah. Oh, no, never mind. Former president of the Confederate State of America. So he was the first presidents of the Confederate States of America. That's why it rings a bell. Anyways, but he was arrested in Fresno, California, for stealing a bicycle. He was sentenced to 6 months into county jail, but escaped after 30 days. Panzram later claimed that after his escape, while riding a boxcar in California, he disarmed an armed man. He either called a railroad detective or a railway breaker man, whom he had forced to have sexually. And then he forced a homeless man at gunpoint to have sexually intercourse before throwing both of them off the train. He proceeded to Oregon, where he made a living as a logger. A logger is just a person that works with the trees, taking them down and processing them. Panzram admitted years later that once, when hiding in Bordello, his wallet was stolen and he was infected with gonorrhea. He also became paranoid. In 1913, Panzram, going as the alias Jack Allen, was arrested in the Dales, Oregon, for highway robbery, assault, and sodomy. You know, you don't really hear highway robbery anymore. I mean, basically, highway robbery nowadays, it's car theft, I guess you would call it. It's actually usually traveled and robbed by horses. Well, when you rob by a horse. Yeah, he broke out of jail after 2 months. He later was arrested in Harrison, Idaho, but again, he escaped from county jail. He was again arrested in Chinook, Montana, sentenced to a 1 year in prison for burglary. Certain names, certain words I can't say, but anyways, to be served in Montana State Prison. On April 27th, 1913, Panzram used his Jefferson Davis alias and was admitted to Montana State Prison at Deer Lodge, Montana. He escaped on November 13th. Within a week, he was arrested for burglary in Three Forks, giving his name as Jefferson Rhodes. He was incarcerated in Deer Lodge for an additional year, but his own account, he committed sodomy while in prison. Panzram was released in March 3rd, 1915, with a new suit of clothing, $5, and a ticket to the next town 6 miles away. He rode the rails through Washington, Idaho, Nebraska, and South Dakota. And when they mean he rode the rails, basically he was an hobo via Columbia River. On June 1st, he burglarized a house in Estrada, Oregon, where he was soon arrested while attempting to sell some stolen items. Under the name Jeff Baldwin, Panzram was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Excuse me. And to be served in Oregon State Penitentiary in Salem, where he had was taken on June 24th, 1915. 50-year-old warden Henry Mento believed in harsh treatment of the inmates, including beatings and isolation, among other disciplinary measures. Later, Panzram stated that he swore he would never do that 7 years, and I defied the warden and all his officers to make me. Later that year, Panzram helped fellow inmate Otto Hooker escape from the prison. While attempting to evade recapture, Hooker killed Minto, the warden. The event marked Panzram's first known involvement in a murder as an accessory before the fact. In his prison records, which noted his two aliases, Jefferson Davis and Jeff Rhodes, he falsely gave his age as 30 and his place of birth as in Alabama. He was only truthfully statement was when he stated his occupation as a thief. Panzram was disciplined several times while at Salem, including 61 days in solitary confinement before escaping on September 8, 1917, after two shootouts in which he attempted to shoot Chief Deputy Sheriff Joseph Forum. He was recaptured and returned to the prison. On May 12, 1918, he escaped again by sawing through the bars of his cell and called a freight train heading east. He began going to as the name is John O'Leary, and shaved off his mustache and changed his appearance. That's so weird that you can change your whole appearance back then by just shaving your mustache. But Panzram would never return to Northwest Panzram. allegedly ended up in New York City. Got a seaman identification card, sell the steamship James S. Whitey to Panama, where he tried to steal a small boat with the help of a drunk sailor who killed everyone on board and was arrested. Still free, Panzram traveled to Peru to work on the copper mines after he traveled to Chile, Port Arthur, Texas, London, Edinburgh, Paris, and Huntingburg. Now, this begins his big time murder spree. In 1920, Panzram committed a robbery in Newport, Rhode Island. On September 16th, 1920, he burglarized a Taft Mansion in New Haven, Connecticut. A resident of William Howard Taft, the 27th president of the United States. By the time that time, a former president, Panzram suspiciously targeted the mansion out of because of what Taft did to sentence and have him incarcerated in Fort Leavenworth. He started a large amount of jury and bonds, as well as Taft's Colt M1911. Using Taft's stolen money, Panzram bought a small sailing yacht, the Stephanie Hawking, help me out with this one.
Akista.
And embarked on an 8-year-long murder spree, which spanned several countries and involving multiple victims, selling south to New York City. For 3 months, Panzram lured sailors away from port bars onto the yacht, made them drink before sexually assaulting them, and then murdering the men with Taft's stolen pistol. Subsequently, dumping their bodies near Exkin Rock Light and Long Island Sound. But that's a lighthouse in the middle of Long Island Sound on the border between New Rochelle and Sands Point in New York. In this manner, Panzram claimed that he had killed 10 men. The sailors murdered and ended only after the boat ran to ground and sank near Atlantic City, New Jersey, during which his last 2 potential victims escaped to parts unknown. On October 26, Panzram was arrested in Stamford, Connecticut for burglary. Hold on real quick. And he was arrested in Stamford, Connecticut for burglary and possession of a loaded handgun. In 1921, he served 6 months in jail in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Panzram caught a ship in southern Africa and landed in Luna, the capital of Conley in Portuguese on Angelo. In 1921, Panzram was foreman of an oil rig in Angala. Oh, God, man. Angala. Sorry. He later burned it down out of what he said spitefulness. Shortly after, he decided to seek out a virgin girl. Panzram paid a resident in Angola family 80 ensconced does. Hold on real quick. Stephen Hawking, what is this?
Issued us,
which is basically $8 in US. And in exchange, he was given a 12-year-old girl whom he sexually assaulted in the shack later that night. He returned the girl to the family, demanding his money back on the suspicions of the girl not being an actual virgin. Jesus, sweet baby Jesus. Okay, yeah, that is horrible. Oh my, okay. The family then gave Panzram an 8-year-old girl whom he did the same thing in his shack and eventually took him back to the family because he suspected she too was not a virgin. He then claimed that he sexually assaulted and killed an Angolan boy estimated to be 11 to 12 years old. In his confessions to this murder, he wrote, "His brains were coming out of his ears when I left him, and he would never be any deader." Ooh, God, what a douchebag. Uh, he also claimed that he hired a boat with 6 rowers, shot the rowers with the Luger pistol, and threw the bodies to the crocodiles. After his return to the United States, Panzram uh, asserted assured he sexually assaulted and killed 2 small boys, beating one to death with a rock on July 18th, 1922, in Salem, Massachusetts, stringing the other one later that year near New Haven. After his murder spree in Salem, Panzram worked as a night watchman in York's, New York, north of Manhattan, at a mill factory in Providence. He stole a yawl and sailed to New Haven, seeking victims to rob and sexually assault. Boats to steal. In June 1923, in New Ratchet, New York, he stole a yacht belonging to police chief of New Ratchet. He picked up a 17-year-old boy named George Wallison and promised him a job on the boat, but instead he sexually assaulted him. On June 27th, on the river near Kingston, New York, Panzram claimed to picked up a man, but then believed the man was going to attempt to rob him. Panzram used his 38 caliber pistol from the stolen yacht. He killed John Doe victim. It basically killed the John Doe victim. Panzram threw the body into the river. On June 28th, Panzram and Walson docked in Poughkeepsie, New York. Panzram stolen $1,000 worth of fishing nets at Newburger. Let me get this one right. I've been messing up cities all night.
Newburgh.
Okay. Wilson, having the murder of the day beforehand, jumped overboard and swam to shore. Walson's witnessing the murder the day before, jumped overboard and swam to shore. He reported to the police at Yorker that he had been sexually assaulted by Panzram. An alert went out for Captain John O'Leary. On June 29th, John O'Leary was arrested in Neesack, New York. Stephanie Hawkins, please help me out.
Nyack, New York.
Nyack. On July 9th, Panzram tried to escape from jail. He later conned his lawyer by giving him ownership of a stolen boat in return for bail money. Panzram skipped bail, and the boat was confiscated by the government agency. On August 26th, O'Leary was arrested in Lockmount, New York, after breaking into a train depot. 3 days later, on August 29th, O'Leary was cleared as a suspect in stabbing to death of Donald Kaufman of Greenbrier, New York, committed a month prior. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. While in the county jail, he confessed to his alias Jeff Baldwin, and he was wanted in Oregon for the murder of a policeman, Minto. After first being imprisoned in Sing Sing prison in October, Panzram was imprisoned at Clinton Prison in Dannemora, New York, as inmate number 75182. While there, he tried to escape, but ended up with an injured spine and broken ankle, and was discharged in July 1928. He allegedly committed another murder that summer in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, his final capture on August 30th, 1928, Panzram was arrested in Baltimore for a Washington, D.C. burglary, stealing a radio and jewelry from a home of a dentist on August 20th. 3 men were also arrested as accomplices, and most of the jewelry was recovered. Panzram gave his correct name, although he lied by claiming that he was 41 and that he was from Nevada. During his interrogation, he confessed to killing 3 young boys earlier that month, one in Salem, one in Connecticut, and a 14-year-old newspaper boy in Philadelphia. Panzram confessed to a killing at a Pier 28 on League Island near Philadelphia in August 1928 was confirmed. Boston police were unable to corroborate the other confession. The murder of the boy in Charlestown, Massachusetts. Panzram later wrote that he contempted mass murder and acts of mayhem, such as poisoning a city water. This guy was literally he was a supervillain. Poisoning city water supply with arsenic and scalding sinking a British warship in New York Harbor to provoke a war between the United States and Britain. Dude, that's commendable, really. Okay, that's weird. In light of his extensive criminal record, Panzram was sentenced to 25 years to life. Upon arriving at Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary, identified as inmate number 31614, he warned the warden, "I'll kill the first man that bothers me," because he was considered too psychotic to be. He was considered too psychotic. He was assigned to work alone in a prison laundry room, where the foreman, Robert Warwick, was known to bully and harass other prisoners under him. Warwick soon antagonized Panzram, despite the latter repeatedly warning him to back off. On June 20th, 1929, Panzram beat Warwick to death with an iron bar. He was convicted and sentenced to death. He refused to allow any appeals of his sentences. In response to offers from death penalty opponents and human rights activists to intervene, he wrote the only thanks yous and God this okay. The only thank you and your kind will ever get from me for your efforts on my behalf is I wish you all one neck, and I had my hands on it. God, sometimes people's speech and writing from that time frame, I get so confused. The only thanks you and your kind will ever get from me for your efforts on the behalf. Anyways, while on death row, Panzram was befriended by an officer named Henry Phillips Lesser, who would give him money to buy cigarettes. Panzram was so astonished to this act of kindness that after lessons provided him with writing material, Panzram wrote a detailed summary of his crimes. And there we go. Stephanie Hawking, give me this word.
Nihilistic.
Nihilistic philosophies while awaiting execution. Panzram explicitly denied having any remorse for any of his actions. Began his journal with a statement that in my lifetime I have murdered 21 human beings. I have committed thousands of burglaries, robberies, larcenies, arsons, and last but not least, I committed solemn sexually assaulted on more than 1,000 men, human beings. For all these things, I am not the least bit sorry. I have no conscience, so that does not worry me. Now, his execution Panzram was hanged September 5th, 1930, as officers attempted to place the customary black hood over his head. He spat at the executioner's faces. When asked for any last words, he responded, "Yes, hurry it up. You hosers, bastards. I could kill a dozen men while you're screwing around." Grr. Now, that is it on this one. He was a supervillain. I might have to change the beginning of this so I can say supervillain because yeah, he pretty much was a supervillain. Anyways, thank you all for listening. Thank you for all watching. Have a great July 4th, since this is going to be out beforehand in on October on Saturday, July 6th. But enjoy the weekend. Hopefully I'll have a long one, 4-day weekend. And anyways, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching, and good night.